Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here, and I'm tired of wimpy churches letting godless bad guys drag this nation down into a spiritual sewer made in their own image. I visited a church the other day because it was listed as a Black Robe Regiment church, and I wanted to connect with a courageous pastor. That is what the Black Robe Regiment is all about. And Lord knows America needs courageous pastors now more than ever. But that's not what I found. The pastor's sermon was about the prodigal son. But he told the congregation that the father running to embrace the returning son was a picture of God welcoming homosexuals into the church. And part of the worship service was the welcoming of two lesbians into the membership. I thought, what? How can anyone who has any knowledge of the scriptures get it so wrong? So I sat there stewing about what my duty was as a Christian. What should I do when Gertie and her faithful companion went forward to be received into the fellowship? Well, Gertie and companion didn't show up, so I didn't have to have a showdown with an apostate church. Now, when I visit a church, I generally sit close to the front. It shows respect for the pastor, and it gives me opportunity to scan down the pews as I walk by. In this particular church, I did not see a single person carrying their own personal Bible. Not one. And that gave me a clue as to why the pastor was able to preach a sermon that was in direct violation of God's Word. The congregation probably had no idea what the New Testament said about lesbianism in the church. There were no Bereans in that church to keep the pastor honest before God. Now, the Bereans were a group of believers that the Apostle Paul preached to, and he commended them highly because they didn't just listen to him. After he finished, they went home and pored over the scriptures to make sure that what Paul said was in accordance with God's Word. Paul loved that, and no doubt God did too. Anyone who truly belongs to God has a love for and a hunger for the Scriptures. The Scriptures are our spiritual nourishment. Now, back to the apostate church that I visited. The story of the prodigal son is not about God welcoming homosexuals into the church. One of the scriptures that applies to that situation is this. 1 Corinthians chapter 5 deals with immorality in the church. Now, this is important because the number one attack on the Christian church today is militant homosexuality trying to force its way in. Listen to what God commands the church. These are the words of the Apostle Paul. He says, "But now I am writing to you not to associate with anyone who bears the name brother if he is guilty of sexual immorality or greed or is an idolater, reviler, drunkard, or swindler. Do not even eat with such a one. For what do I have to do with judging outsiders? Is it not those inside the church whom you are to judge? God judges those outside. Purge the evil person from among you." Boy, if the Catholic Church had obeyed this command, that pedophile priest scandal would have never happened. And if more people sitting in the pews of apostate churches knew the scriptures, those pastors would not get away with misleading the people and marching that church into open blasphemy against God. Today, the world needs to see Christians with the courage of Jesus and John the Baptist. Jesus never condoned sin, and when he was compassionate and forgiving, he also said, "Now go and sin no more." John the Baptist publicly challenged King Herod about his sexual activities that violated God's Word. And today, American churches need to be challenged to be the people God expects them to be, obedient to His Word. There's no excuse for a church to be ignorant, and part of the Outlaws Chapel mission is to educate ourselves so we can be good ambassadors of Christ to a world at war with God, and so we can challenge apostate churches that are also at war with God. We are commanded to do so. And just for the record, the pastor had no idea what the Black Robe Regiment is, and that's just as well. I don't think it would be a good fit. This is Wild Bill for America. Thank you for watching, and America bless God again.